and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining the Corgi Town podcast. I'm Candy with Corgi Town USA. This is my executive producer, Kat Cohen.
Hi.
This is Digby, chair of the Corgi Committee, and this is Chuckles, president of the Corgi Committee and spokescorg for Corgi Town USA. So, we are doing a hybrid episode today, and we're continuing the discussion about tips and tricks about traveling with your corgi. So, we're talking to people who travel with their corgis often, but we're also going to talk today about how having a corgi changed your life.
Yes.
So, and
Hello.
Kat can speak to this too a little bit. I'll give a little background. The first corgi that was in my family
Right.
was when I was in high school. I lived with my aunt and uncle, and we had another dog, and she said, "I'm going to go get a dog today." Okay. And I come home, and she had this little creature on the arm of this big overstuffed chair she had. And I said, "What is that?" I had never seen anything like that before, but corgis go through this strange sort of adolescent
Okay.
phase where their backs are really long. They stay long, but they kind of grow into those. They grow into their backs and their ears. So the little stumpers stay short. They just look really silly for a little bit. And we got her in the adolescent stage, and her name was Kira, and she was the best dog ever. But I remember my aunt saying, "That's a corgi." And I said, "Oh, what?" She said, "A corgi."
Corgi.
I had never heard of a corgi before. But she wound up being the best dog ever. And we had her for many years. And then when I became an adult, I decided I wanted a corgi because I'd had such a positive experience with Kira.
Yeah.
And so that's when I got Lilo back in 2004, and he passed away last year. So I had him for 15 beautiful years.
Yes.
He was the most precious boy there ever was and the perfect dog. And I picked him out of a litter, and I brought him home at 8 weeks old, and he was just amazing. A few corgis later, Digby here found me,
Yes.
and he joined our little corgi committee here, and he was a wonderful addition. Very high energy fella. We did some
He is
trading,
very high energy.
and he's been living with Kat as his corgi mom now, and he's now your emotional support
He
dog.
is now my emotional support dog
Yeah.
and my little crazy. You need to go down.
Do you want to talk a little bit about how having Digby changed your life?
Yeah.
It might get emotional.
Might get emotional. So, in May of 2020, I lost my husband, my precious husband. And I spent a lot of time at Candy's house. I spend a lot of time with all of my friends, and I have the most precious, wonderful friends in the world. And I spent a lot of time at Candy's house, and every time I would break out and cry, just as he's doing right now, Digby would come up to me and he'd put his little paws on my shoulder and he'd rest on my lap. And I thought, well, this little guy needs to be with me because he seems to be comforting me. And at that time, I had two cats. I had Anakin and Naboo, and unfortunately, Anakin passed away shortly after my husband. I think he just missed my husband so much, but before that, I decided that I would test out whether or not Digby got along with the cats because he and I had only had cats for the last 25 years, for the 25 years we were together. And Digby got along well with Anakin and Boo. The two boys, Anakin and Digby, were best of friends. And so Digby, as short a time as he had Annie, um, was a little bit heartbroken, but now Digby is with me. He travels a little bit with me, not a lot. I chose not to travel by plane with him recently, but he does travel by car with me pretty much all over. And yeah, as I start to venture out on dates, eek, Digby is actually my my tester. And if Digby doesn't like you boys, you don't get the time of day.
He's the litmus tester.
He is the litmus test. He's also a bit of safety, a bit of comfort, a bit of everything. So that's what's
A
going
bit
on
of
with Digby.
opinions, a bit of sass.
A bit of sass, a bit of all of that. But it is really good to have him jump up on the couch and sit next to me and sit where Barry used to sit and just be there for me.
Yeah,
So it's
he's
nice.
I'm so glad that you two found each other,
We
and
did. We did.
that he's part of this little extended happy family we have.
He is.
Well, they certainly changed my life in that I learned that I can't have life without a corgi.
Yes.
I'm always going to have more than one, and I always want more and more and more. OCD, obsessive corgi disorder, is
Yes.
real,
It
folks.
is.
I have it. But I like to say these are the things I've learned from my corgis. Patience is a virtue, but not a requirement.
Yes.
Every day is an adventure.
It truly is.
Love much, sleep often.
Mhm.
Zoom and frap whenever possible, and be the most loyal friend you can be.
Yes.
So those are the things that I've learned the most from my corgis over the years. And our guest today has a precious little lady named Delilah. She also has a red corgi named Austin who looks almost identical to my hammer. So I have three. Hi. Oh, there he is. He's going to join us. Oh my gosh. That's Austin, right?
This is Delilah.
Oh, you have Delilah. Okay. Well, I could see his ears.
Right. Let's see if we
So-
can get up a little taller. There we go.
Aw,
There's Delilah.
so sweet.
Oh.
She's so
I
sweet.
don't know where the camera's.
Hi, baby.
Hey,
Hi, Delilah. Thank you for joining us. I have one of her stickers up on my computer monitor at home.
hey. She's a good girl.
Yeah, she's precious. And I think it's so funny. Everyone, please welcome Marjorie Pennock. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
And when we would do meetups, it would crack me up because Hammer and Austin look so much alike that I think it's happened more
funny.
than once that I go to you and I'm like, wait, which one's my dog? I mean, you have to really get up in their face, and they're just ever subtle differences, but they look so much alike.
I know that we were at Corgi Beach Day and I lost her because at home at the park, I can find her. But when you've got, 200 tricolors running around on the beach, I just lost
Oh
her.
my.
It was really hard. Panic,
Wow.
I'm
little
excited.
panic.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've experienced that before too in those large meetups. And we'll have Kelly Lamore from Corgi Beach Day as one of our guests coming up. So we're going to talk about that. Yeah, and it's so fun. So I'm glad that you brought it up. But I wanted to talk to you first. I think if correct me if I'm wrong, but Delilah is your alert dog, correct?
She is. She is my diabetic alert dog. So she's trained to alert when my sugars either drop or get high. The dropping's what she really is trained for. So yeah, she's a good girl.
A smart cookie. Yeah,
She
she's a
is.
smart cookie.
The problem is that she's been trained to sniff, so she sniffs everything out. So you can't hide a thing from this dog.
Oh my.
It's a challenge.
Oh my goodness. Well, Chucky sniffs a lot too. Maybe I should get him some extensive training. He's so curious. So tell me, if anyone is considering getting an alert dog, do you have some sort of tips or advice on how they would get that started?
You need to do some research on trainers. With a corgi, I really had a lot of trouble finding somebody that would work with a corgi because they are so independent, because they are smallish, that they're not a typical assistance dog. And so finding a trainer, I think what happened was the first day we went, I don't think they were convinced. And the first day we went to the training and they worked with her and saw how quickly she caught on, they were like, okay, well, we'll give it a try. So, and she's such a breeze about everything. She's like, oh, that's what you want. Okay. She's all about patterns and she learns the fastest of any dog I've ever had. And she wants to please. She really wants to. And a lot of that might be because I got her when she was a puppy. And so, we had that chance to really bond. Austin, he's a good boy. He's handsome, but he has no interest he wants to please if it suits him. So,
I'm familiar.
I call him my Fabio dog because he's so pretty.
That's so funny. And Lilo, my first corgi, was like that. he was the most adaptable, just, and he was like that, very intuitive, very, we're doing this now. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And, move on. And it just so intelligent. And he was so easy to train because he just intuitively knew. You tell him once and I think it was okay. So I love that you have Delilah to share your
Yeah.
life. So now that we know a little bit about their personalities, you actually have. Are these your first corgis? Have you had other corgis?
No, I had Lola was my first corgi. She passed away 4.5 years ago now, and she bad me. I got her at a pet shop because I at the time. I mean, we're talking 18 years ago. So I was not savvy to all of the things I know now.
Right.
And she was there and she was there and she was there for 4 months. And then I started panicking, going, what's going to happen to her? So my husband's like, if it makes you happy, just go get the dog. So she was my first, and she was fantastic as well. She was my learning curve, that's for sure. And, again, a good trainer, I got to help. And, we just kept doing training for fun after that, just to keep her engaged and out of trouble. But I had her for 14 years. So I was really, really lucky to have her. And she was a good girl. And I still, she's still a bar. As much as I love my Delilah, she's still a bar at which things get, kind of graded.
I can relate. You have your firsts and you have your heart dog, and they tend to be kind of deified a little bit. That's
Yes.
I have a
think so.
huge blown up picture in my entryway, a poster size of Lilo.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So I'm like, just anyone who comes over, so everyone knows this is the most precious boy there ever was, and no one will ever live up to him. So I understand what you mean. And so what would you say? Obviously it's very important for you to have Delilah, and she helps keep you healthy and helps keep you alive, and that is very, very important.
Extremely.
But what other ways would you say that having a corgi has changed your life? And what have you learned from the corgis?
I think one of the things that having them is, I believe you said patience, and that's certainly true. But it's also been a sense of adventure. I've gotten to meet a lot of people belonging to, corgi clubs, or going to Corgi Beach Day, or just all of the things. You go somewhere with a corgi, and everybody's like, oh, "You've got a corgi!" And then we roll down the back window. They're like, "You have two!" And so it's really fun, because everybody knows who they are now. When I had Lola, nobody knew what a corgi was. Everybody's like, what kind of dog is that? It's like, it's corgi. Like, what's that? Then right about the time 4 years ago when I got Delilah, that's when they started, I think, hitting more the mainstream, because every place we knew, everybody knew what she was.
Right.
And, so now they're just, awesome. Everybody knows them, and everybody, I think, has a really good idea of their personalities, which is great. That also worries me sometimes, that people aren't equipped to have them, but they do have the most awesome personalities of any dog. I love dogs, like all breeds of dogs, but these dogs really have my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a thing. They're definitely a special breed, and they solidify a special place in your heart. And I love that you brought up that when you travel, everywhere you go, everyone recognizes, because we talk about that a lot here on the podcast, about the paparazzi, and how when you have a corgi, everywhere you go, everyone says,
corgi.
Corgi.
Can I take your picture? Can I take your picture? Like, sure. Go ahead.
Real paparazzi. Yes, real paparazzi.
It's a thing. It's a real thing.
I had never heard that term before, but I like it.
Well, I
Candace invented it.
I don't think I invented it. I'm sure I read it somewhere, so I can't take full credit. It's somewhere in my subconscious, but it's very fitting. And it's funny when you have friends that you travel with that aren't used to it. Right. And when I fly, we talk about this, about traveling with your corgi. I've gone on many cross-country road trips. I've had 6 corgis. through since I've been an adult on my own, and I've had 4 at once. And we have traveled. We've gone on cross country road trips. And but when I fly, I'll fly with Booger a lot. And so, for those of you who don't know in the audience, if the animal is not your ESA, an actual certified emotional support animal, they
Right.
have to fly as your carry-on, and they go in front of the seat. They become your carry-on. They go in the seat in front of you, under the seat in front of you. And Booger's only 16 pounds, so that's easy to do with her.
Little.
Little girl, but like Hammer was way too big. So there's no way that I could get him in there. But that's the safe thing. When we go through the airport, people say, "Oh, Corgi!" You can hear it all over the airport. And I love that you brought up about their personalities and people being prepared. That's one of the things we want to do with this podcast. We have a lot of guests lined up. We're going to talk about how to find a reputable breeder. And what year was it that you got Lola?
Lola got in 2002.
Okay, yeah, so that's just a couple years before I got Lilo. And when we had Kira growing up, people
Right.
didn't know what a corgi was. I didn't know what a corgi was. And then when I got Lilo, I was so excited to have him. I said, "Oh, I'm so excited I have a corgi." And people say, "Oh, what?" And they didn't know. And to your
What's a
point,
corgi?
it hasn't been until recent years that everybody has known. But one of the things we want to do is address how high energy the breed is, that they do shed a lot, very far from hypoallergenic. They are very opinionated. They're very sassy.
Bossy.
Very bossy. Yeah.
Yes.
All these things are take into account, and there are also diseases and things that can be avoided if you go to the right breeder and you do the right research. And you didn't know back in 2002 that pet shops sometimes they have a stigma attached, and sometimes they're not the best places to go. And when I got Lilo, we didn't know what DM was. Degenerative myelopathy. That's one of the genetic diseases they're prone to.
It's fun.
Delilah is so cute.
That's actually how she alerts or tests, or I don't know. She'll come and smell.
So is she warning you right now?
No, I think what happened was I put on like lip gloss, and so I think she's smelling the fruity of that, because
Right.
your blood sugars, the smell that they get, it's a fruity smell. And
Okay.
so I know my blood sugar's fine, so I know that that's not it. But I think she's a little confused that, what is that?
What is that smell? What are you doing, mommy? So
Yeah.
what I would like to know what or why rather is it better or different to have an alert animal, an alert dog, an alert corgi versus constantly checking and testing your blood sugar?
Because she can alert on it about 30 minutes before it'll show up on a test. They can sense it about 30 minutes before it actually happens. So it's really handy. It's really handy, especially at night, because I can usually feel low. I can feel it. I get the shakes. I get these things. It's when you're asleep that you don't know, and so that's where why she'll travel with me and everything, because that's what I need her for. And at night when she sleeps, she's usually in the bed with us. And
so how does she wake you up when she alerts you? Does she
if I'm awake, she'll go ahead and she'll tap. We call it tap. But if I'm asleep, she'll come and lay across me. And you really can't breathe when you have 24 pounds lying on your chest. So it kind of wakes you up.
No.
Has Digby ever done that to you?
No. Digby's not allowed in the bed. It's up high and he can't jump up on.
Oh no, she doesn't jump in or out. She is always lifted in.
She's always
Yeah, I lift all of mine. Chucky and Boog and Han, they all line up, and we have a routine: 1, 2, 3, and then we go down 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, no, well, because that is Naboo's sacred space. So my bed is Naboo's sacred space, and Digby seems to understand that. And Naboo and I have slept together since she was a kitten.
Naboo laid down the law.
Yeah, Naboo laid down the law. So Digby Digby is bilingual, and I say "andiamo a dormire," which means "let's go sleep," and he just walks right into his kennel and he stays there. I don't even close the kennel door. He just stays there.
He's a bilingual boy.
He is a bilingual corgi. Yes,
I'm so proud of him.
Oh, that's cool. I met a woman at the dog park one day. She's Navajo, and her dog speaks Navajo. For some reason, I just thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. Except when you think about it, and dogs in foreign countries don't speak English. They
Right.
they're
Well, he's more lingual than some. So
yeah,
there's
he is
that.
more lingual than some. That's true.
So while we're talking about travels with your corgi, tell us, Marjorie, where do you like to stay? Are there certain properties that you prefer? I think since you have an alert animal, do you
Well,
have-
yeah, she can go anywhere, but when we travel as a family, Austin throws a little kink in that because he's not trained to be anything other than a pet, and that's fine. Typically there are a couple of hotels that we look for because they tend to be pet friendly, like Red Roof Inn and Extended Stay Americas. But
Okay.
there's a website called bringfido.com,
Yep.
Which is a really good resource for not just hotels, but for restaurants that are dog friendly.
Right.
Okay.
But even when I look it up and even when we do that, I always call to ensure that information is correct, because I want to get there like at 11 o'clock at night and then they go, no, that's not in fact the case.
And have to scramble. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I can't find any place. But there are a lot of things that we do. She just took off. I was going to show you. I have collars made. Orvis, the people that do hunting, fishing and hunting supplies, they do collars that have their name and a telephone number woven into it. So whenever we travel, the dogs always have those collars on, so that they are always identifiable, and it has my telephone number. Just little things that, look at your route before you go. And we try to identify a couple of places. And I even look, honestly, I even check out, we go to Banfield. So I kind of look for Banfield along the way, just in case. And I always take some extra cash in case we can't find that. So if we are someplace and you have to go to an emergency vet or a vet for an emergency, you have some cash with you. But those are some basic things. But all the things, when you travel, we have water bowls and food bowls, and a lot of times if I fly with her, I have the collapsible bowls that can be used for both food and water, and I'll pack in a bag, like a Ziploc baggie of food, because I can use that for a snack, or I can use it for a treat if she's being stubborn, because she's really well trained. But when you get her in sometimes they're dogs. If you get them in a situation, hopefully all the training doesn't go out the window, but just in case it doesn't, I have a backup, because she is highly food motivated.
Yeah. So she's highly trained, but she's still a corgi.
Right. Well, all dogs, I know I have friends that have assistant dogs, labs, and things like that. And I have a friend that if her dog sees a bird, it's like, she hopes she sees it first so she can put him in stay, because he wants to chase that bird. I mean, they're still dogs, and they do sometimes get distracted, and that's okay. But we try to minimize that as much as possible.
Absolutely.
But very distracted.
I know that we were talking about flying with them, and Candy, I know you do that, but nowadays with the dogs, you need to still, even though she is a legitimate service dog, I still call and check with the airlines and make sure that they know that, technically, legally, I don't have to disclose what she does. They can't ask that question. But I feel, especially nowadays with the kind of gray area with the service dogs and the support dogs, I don't mind disclosing it. I don't care, because, eventually somebody will see me sticking my finger and testing and things like that. So, but, it takes planning, traveling with a dog, a lot of planning when you're traveling with them. And the more you can do up front, the better you are, instead of having to kind of figure it out as you go along.
Right. Well, one of the coolest things that I've discovered is I've gone hiking a couple of times up in Sedona, and
Mm.
I've taken Chuckles with me, and they make this little water bottle. I don't know if you've seen these, Marjorie, but it's called a Lozotic water bottle, and it's silicone,
Right.
and you put the water in, and you can pop the top up. It has a little nut on it, and you release the nut, and you can pop the top up and squeeze the bottle, and the water comes up, so they can drink it like a bowl.
Right.
And when you're done, the water retracts, so you're not wasting any, not having to pour out any on the trail if they decide
Yes.
they're done drinking. And then you can secure the nut, and then just carry it, and it's no spill. I think that's one of the coolest things I've traveled with them.
I have a very similar one, except you press it. It's got a little cup, and you press the button, and it goes into it. And then when they're finished, you can hold it upright, push the button, and it goes back in. So it's a similar kind of thing.
Right. Mine you have to hold squeezed, because Digby and I walk up South Mountain almost every day, and I hold it squeezed, and he drinks out of it, and when he's done, I just release it, and the water gets sucked back. So there are so many wonderful products out there for our dogs, for our precious pets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the best ones I found for traveling in the car, and I couldn't before we're actually not in Phoenix right now. We're traveling. We're getting ready to go back this weekend. Usually I travel. It's this thing I found that we're lucky to have Ryan's Pet Supply, and it's a plastic. It's about yay big, and when you put the water in it, when you hold it up, the water is in a reservoir, but when you lay it down, it has a cup and the water so they can drink out of it. So it's spill proof. And I usually have it in the back of the car so the dogs can, while we're on a car trip, drink water at will. But I didn't bring it on this trip.
Oh yeah,
But
I
it's
love
a really
that
cool thing.
they have these now. That there have
Right.
been more traveling pet owners, and that's my vision with Corgi Town USA is a place that it's a resort for pets and their people. So
Yeah.
people like us that our animals are first, and but I love that we have more options now than ever
Absolutely. It's
to
wonderful.
make life more convenient and safe to travel with your pet on the road. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing those thoughts. And so do both of so Delilah, she has a job, and that's to protect mom and watch mom. And so do Austin and Delilah both enjoy traveling?
She goes wherever I go, and that's all she wants.
Yeah.
I think this trip, when we drove, so it was a 2-day trip. By the time we got here, he was like, "I'm done with the car," and so it's taken a couple of weeks for him to even if I show him the leash, come on, let's go, and he's like, "Oh, fine." Sadly, Friday he has no choice as we start the trek back. But he has a big pad in the back that he lies on, because she usually, unfortunately, we will strap them in. I have harness, and we have seat belts for them, and so that's usually where they are. They're in the back seat, strapped down for these trips, because just in case there's some sort of accident, we keep them strapped in and buckled in so that they are safe.
Yeah, and they learn really quickly. So when you're getting ready to go and you say it's time to get in the car, and they go in the car, Chucky will sit there and wait for you to latch up his little seatbelt on his harness, and they kind of get where they know the drill.
They
She-
do know the drill. I think every time we walk out the front door, Digby thinks we're going somewhere, so he just goes and sits at the back door of my car, and I'm like, "No, dude, you're gonna go potty now. You're not going on an adventure." And then he just looks at me like, "Why not? Why is my life not one giant adventure?" And I wish that for him, but
Oh,
I
not
think
yet.
Austin's good with it, but Delilah doesn't not want to be strapped down. She would much prefer being on my lap the whole time.
no.
And that's a problem.
Yeah.
It's just like how we survived is beyond and anyone who is over probably the age of 30 or something like that knows what we're talking about, and that is, how did we survive when our parents kept us on their laps in the front seat of the car? We stood up in the back seat of the car,
Our
and
car didn't even have seatbelts. It wasn't.
don't recall.
Our car was old enough that
Right,
it didn't
right.
have to have seatbelts.
and so and now children have to be in their car seats and strapped in and facing the
Facing a
back
certain
and
way.
facing
Yeah.
a certain way and
Yeah.
everything. Hey, Everybody. Same with your fur babies. They have to be in the car, in the back, strapped in a certain way, protected. It's the same thing. We can't let them run around. And once upon a time, we did that too. We had a collie growing up, and we had a station wagon, and the collie and I were in the back of the station wagon, which now that I say it out loud makes me wonder what my parents were thinking.
We used to fight to be in the back of the station wagon.
Right? That little weird scene in the back of the station wagon. Who knew?
That's so funny. I love it so much. Cracks me up. Well, thank you so much, Marjorie, for
You're welcome.
sharing your tips and tricks. And we're going to share, we have these Instagram handles for Austin Corgi if you want to follow Austin, or Delilah Evangeline if you want to follow her travels. And Marjorie, as I understand it, you do some photography. So
I do.
she gets really good shots of these precious little fur babies. You can follow her there in case you need some photography needs, and reach out to her on Instagram. So thank you so much, Marjorie. I appreciate it. You guys have a safe and easy trip back.
Thank you. I'm sure we'll see you soon. I hope we see you soon.
Right.
We're looking forward to it. I know Chuckles is. He misses all his little corgi friends for sure.
Absolutely. So,
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We are going to have some more upcoming episodes about traveling with your corgi, because it depends if you're traveling by car. We haven't done boat yet. We've done car, air. So if anyone out there in the universe travels with their corgi by boat, we would love to hear from you, because that's not something that we talk
I
about.
do remember years ago going on a cruise, and there was a pet. You know what? I don't think it was a pet. I'm going to say it was a support animal. But yeah, there was a dog on the cruise.
Oh wow, how cool!
So, and here in Phoenix, here in Arizona, we have a lot of boats. We have a lot of lakes, and I think there's probably a number of people that bring their little corgis on the weekend trips with their boats.
Yeah, that's true. So we want to hear from you, so we can talk about that a little bit more. We'll also have more episodes about So You Want a Corgi.
Yes.
What kind of breeder should you look at? We definitely recommend rescue always, and what to look out for with temperament and things like that.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. So it's Candy, Kat, Digby, and Chuckles signing off on the Corgi Town USA podcast. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.